Imagine, a podcast series by Imagine Theatre.
Hello again and welcome to episode 87 of this podcast series, and this time we're here at an Imagine Photoshoot day at the Royal Spa Centre in Leamington Spa.
For more information, go to their website at www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.
Now, in the last episode, we found out about the role of the production manager within the panto team when I chatted to a man with experience in just about every technical area of theatre, Andy Nurse. This is just one of 86 other episodes that you can listen to again. So far, we've had a variety of guests from celebrities with backstage team members, practitioners and academics. We've discussed specific panto titles, talked about how pantomime is produced, its history and its future. You can check all of them out where you normally get your podcasts from. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the series so that you don't miss any future episodes. So this time we're back here then at the Royal Spa Centre in Leamington Spa to meet cast members from Imagine's pantos across the UK ahead of the new season. So let's go inside and meet them. So again, this is the third photo shoot. There have been actors here from the Imagine pantos from all over the UK. There are some here today from Halifax, from Wales and also from Scotland. So let's start with the joint CEO at Imagine, Steve Bowden. Steve, this is a massive undertaking, isn't it? But I have to say, it runs like clockwork, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a fascinating project because we get to see the first part of what the shows will look like on stage. We've seen the cast in auditions, we now get to see them here in their costumes, working with the props, and we get to capture some really good content. But more importantly, they get to meet other members of the company, and we get to talk to them about key moments in the scripts, we get to run through music numbers with them if we need to check keys and things like that. So it's a really useful day, a couple of days. It does have to work like clockwork because we're seeing hundreds of performers over the days, and they all have to be fitted into costumes, they all have to be fed and watered, they all have to be put through the video mechanisms that we can capture video for social medias, and all the photos that we need for marketing and publicity.
And they've got to get here as well because they come from all four corners of the UK, and people like Katie in the office have spreadsheets all over the place because timings of the logistics are crucial.
They absolutely are, especially when we're flying people down from Scotland for our Scottish pantos. We have to make sure that we can get them down in the morning, they can do the work with us, and then we can get them home safely before the end of the day. So, yeah, Katie is a spreadsheet guru when it comes to logistics of this particular activity.
And of course, it'll be the first time that a lot of the cast members meet each other.
It's exactly the case, and there's always a sense of nerves and anticipation on the first day of rehearsals, and what we find that this day does is just kind of help alleviate some of those concerns, because people have met each other, they kind of know how things are going to work, particularly the comics, they get to kind of know each other and they can start to form the relationship that will ultimately be seen on stage, dames and comics who perhaps haven't worked together. What's equally as lovely is, of course, we're reuniting casts because people may have worked together over the years, and we've had some great meetups over the last couple of days where people who have perhaps worked together 5 or 6 years ago are back together again, or we happen to be photoing the shows on the same day and they get to reunite and catch up. So it's really lovely.
There is always something quite bizarre about seeing Steve Elias just passed me in the corridor. He's one of your dames. He's in Carmarthen this year. He's in full makeup costume. He's about to go out in the sun in the middle of summer in full costume. It's strange, isn't it?
It really is, and I think that's just what panto is. Why not? Panto is all about those kind of those representation of characters, and I think when you get to this time in the summer, just seeing people dressed in panto costumes isn't quite as unusual as perhaps it is pre-summer. But yeah, it's what we do. There's some fantastic parkland around the Royal Spa Centre here, and we can capture some great outdoor shots for all the shows.
So in the calendar, as the countdown continues, this is a key marker now, isn't it?
It is. There's so much content that's created from the back of today, and this is really the countdown to the season. We always say that this is like the firing gun being fired for the real race to begin, because literally with all this content that we've captured, it gets turned into a lot of content to be distributed to the venues. There's a lot of follow-up activities from it. Wardrobe now know the people that they're costuming because they've had a chance to really check measurement sheets with the actuals. Props are now being finalised because we have a number of props here for the photo shoot, and they can then be signed off by directors and moved into packing. And of course, the scripts are finalised as well.
And it highlights as well, Dawn and the team in wardrobe. Everybody thinks, well, you just get the costumes out just for Christmas, don't you? But they're coming in and out all year because you're having fittings, you're having photo shoots, not just this one, but others around the country as well. The costumes have to go out, come back in again. So it is really a 12-month job, isn't it?
It really is a 12-month job, and I think the most important thing about wardrobe is the fact that everything gets handled and has to be cleaned, and has to be sized, and has to be fitted. It's probably the biggest department that we operate, and Dawn heads up a fantastic group of people, and they are constantly working throughout the year to make sure that the costumes that we get on stage not only fit the actors, but are, exactly what the writers, directors and creatives want to see.
Yeah.
And it is a big operation, wardrobe. You can't underestimate that.
Well, this whole operation, the photo shoots themselves, is a big operation. There's a lot of things that need to be organised, but above all, it's just great fun. Everybody in the building has a smile on their face.
Yeah, and that's what Panto's all about, and we always say if we're having fun, and that translates to the shows that we put on stage. Panto is great fun. Yes, it's a business, it has to stack up commercially because we're not funded. We're commercial Panto creators, and we have to work with our partners at the theatres to ensure that the shows make money for the theatres and make money for us. But we have to do it with a great dollop of fun, because that is what Panto is.
Steve, thank you so much. The countdown continues.
Yeah, it'll be here before we know it.
OK, well, let's go and see if we can find anybody else. The whole of the Royal Spa Centre is taken over by Imagine today. Upstairs are lots of people actually having a break and a snack. There are pictures being taken in the auditorium with video and so on. Pictures being taken in the foyer. So let's make our way downstairs and see who's in the dressing room getting ready. Well, I don't want to spoil the magic for you, but at Christmas, if you're in Swindon and you go to see Cinderella, I can tell you that the Prince and Cinderella have actually met before the ball, because they're here at the photo shoot in Leamington Spa. And the Prince is played by Jack Malin. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Tell us a bit about your background then, first of all, how you got into the industry and what you've done.
When I was younger, I used to do my local Amdram shows. My granddad used to make the set. My nan used to be part of the Amdrams. That's sort of how I got into it. And then when I was 13, I did Oliver in the West End, original cast, which was sort of incredible. And for me, that was the performing is what I want to do. That was the going into it. So then went to secondary school, then went on to a drama college, graduated from there, been lucky enough to do many different bits over the years. And then I started working for a place called the Theatre Café, in and out of auditions. Was there pre-pandemic, making coffee, and then went back post-pandemic, and I'm now the Chief Operating Officer of the company. So my life is constantly theatre. Whether I'm on stage or off stage, I'm constantly within it, working there now, yeah.
And there is, of course, a restaurant come diner, isn't there,
Yes.
as well now?
Yes, we've got the Theatre Café diner. So after the success of the cafe, we were like, we want to do something else. Something's missing. And in New York, they've got Stardust Diner.
Yep.
So we said, well, why don't we do that over here? And literally, we went for a walk around the West End, me and my boss, saw an empty venue. So that'll work. Got the keys a couple months later. After that, opened it. And it's been running for 2 years now, and it's been phenomenal. And we hire out-of-work performers or people that are currently graduating or about to graduate. They're all so talented, and it keeps the whole theatre vibe going.
Yeah.
Even if you're not at a theatre, you can come and have a bite to eat and still get a show, which is just incredible.
I think as well, both for Theatre Café and theatre in general, of course, it was a challenging time after COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, very difficult. We really noticed the struggle because when we first went to reopen, theatre still weren't open for a long time. So we took a chance. We said, look, we're going to reopen our doors on a Saturday, pop in for a coffee if you're in the West End. And the amount of people that showed up for us was mind-blowing. We had a queue going out the door, people travelling from the north, from the south, all to come just for a cappuccino and a piece of cake. Yeah. And I think for us that was a real eye-opener that one, theatre is so important, and it took a while to get theatres reopen, and you saw how much people missed it just by coming to see us. And that's what made us want to do the diner, because it was like, if people love us as a cafe, there's so much more we can offer them. And theatre, sometimes West End prices can be expensive. So if we can do something else where, you're paying, 20 odd quid for a burger, but you're getting a bit of a performance, and that person you're watching, in 6 months' time, they might be on a cruise or in a West End show, and then you've seen them, they've served you a burger, and now they're in Six the Musical. People love coming for that experience. So we really struggled, but how we've managed to turn it around it's been incredible, but it's purely because the love that people have for theatre and the fan base that we have, they've sort of pushed us to keep going.
So you mentioned Amdram as a kid, but what about going to the theatre? Do you remember going to see panto as a child?
Yeah, so I went to my first panto when I was 4, again with my grandparents, went to the local panto, and I remember just like loving it. My eyes just lit up, I found it really funny. Obviously there's a lot of jokes back then that would go over my head, but some that I'd really find funny, and my grandparents would be like, oh, why's he laughing? And that, I think that's what made me really love panto, was going with them. It's always an experience that I've linked to my grandparents. And then throughout all my childhood, we used to go to panto. And then as I've got older and met people within the industry, I'm always doing a panto. And if I'm not, they're doing a panto. So then I'll travel and go and see everyone else's. And even now, you know, my late 20s, I get so excited. I'm like louder than the children. I'm screaming, it's behind you. Kids turn around and look at me and think, what's he doing?
So were you one of those kids who would go up for the song sheet, for instance, or not?
Yes, 100%. Maybe hard to believe, but I love being on stage.
No.
I love the limelight. I love the attention. So yeah, I was always one of the first kids to put my hands up. Anything I could do to participate and feel like I was involved in the production, I'd always do. Even to when I got to about 12, 13, where my family would be like, you're too old, there's 5-year-olds going up, put your hand down. But I used to love it, just get me on stage, I want to be part of it.
And this isn't your first year for Imagine, but is it your first year as Prince in Cinderella?
First year doing Cinderella, not my first time playing the Prince. I've been lucky enough to do the Prince twice in Sleeping Beauty for Imagine. So it's really nice to come back as the Prince again, but to be going into a new panto, because I've never done Cinderella before.
I mean, there are some interesting relationships in Cinderella as well. Obviously, the two stepsisters, the relationship between them, Buttons and Cinderella. Obviously, Cinderella and the Prince, but the Prince and Dandini as well. There's some nice dynamic.
Really nice dynamics. And I think it'd be a nice opportunity for me to work with multiple different people and find those relationships. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a really good Christmas.
The theatre is a fabulous theatre, so you'll have an absolutely amazing time, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Jack, for talking to us.
That's all right. Thank you ever so much.
Well, in the dressing room next door to the Prince, I said that they met well before the ball, is Cinderella at the Wyvern in Swindon this Christmas, played by Maisie Scarlett. How are you?
I'm very good, very excited.
So you're in the middle of putting your makeup on now and about to get into costume.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about you, how you got started in the business and where that sort of inspiration came from.
So my earliest memory and what my parents always used to tell me is I used to come down the stairs doing Kylie Minogue impressions. I used to do her showgirl tour twice a day, they said. And ever since then, I've been having dance lessons and singing lessons. And yeah, that just carried on. I went to college instead of A-levels. I did like a performing arts diploma. I went on to PPA, drama school, and I just graduated last year, and yeah, I'm really excited.
So do you remember panto as a kid? Do you remember going to see it?
Yes, I have very fond memories of me and my grandparents going. We went to one in Shropshire every year, and yeah, it was amazing. I've seen quite a few there, quite a big theatre, so yeah, I'm really
what
happy.
What struck you
memories.
about it, first of all? What was the, because most kids, you know, their eyes are wide open, their chins are on the floor,
Yeah.
they're in awe of it. Is it the colour, is it the spectacle, is it the fun? What excited you?
I think it's the fun, and it is the gags in it. It's just, I just remember finding it so funny, and I think it's my parents and my grandparents laughing as well, and it was just, and also the colour, I think, as well, and the costumes and the dresses, that always good memories of that.
And is this your first time as Cinderella?
It is, and I'm really excited about it.
I think for many people it is the most magical of all pantos, isn't
Yeah,
it? And what
I
about
agree.
you?
I agree. I think it's got to be because of the ball and the carriage and everything.
And you haven't seen the carriage yet, of course, have you?
No, I haven't. I hope there's one.
It is amazing, let me tell
Okay.
you, it is amazing. And I guess for young children, there's something for everybody actually in this particular panto, isn't there? Some great relationships with you and Buttons, you and the Prince, the Wicked Stepsisters together, the Prince and Dandini. There's an awful lot in this, a lot more than people realise.
Yes. No, I completely agree. And I'm really excited to explore that. And yeah, there's a lot of characters in this one compared to others. I think that's what is really exciting about it.
And the most magical thing is the transformation, the pumpkin into a coach. You
Yeah.
get a brand new dress and everything, and then you do go to the ball. I mean, it's just magical, isn't it?
It is, yeah. No, I'm so excited. That's what I'm looking forward to most.
Well, listen, I'll let you carry on because I know
Thank
you're up
you.
against it. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much.
Meanwhile, in the auditorium, one of Imagine's dames for this coming Christmas season is Steve Elias, who's playing Dame in Carmarthen. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So tell us a bit about your background, Steve. Where did it all start for you?
I'm originally from Carmarthen. I suppose I was destined to be a bricklayer or a builder like my father and my two brothers, and to play rugby, and I did neither. So I ran away from Carmarthen at 18, did a performing arts degree, and I was very lucky. Very early on I found a niche within the industry. As I trained as a contemporary dancer, but as you look at me, or as people know, I look like a rugby prop forward. But I also had a classical tenor voice. So that lent itself to finding a niche within musical theatre.
Yep.
And yeah, the business has been very favourable for me.
Yeah.
So not just only, I suppose my spine is my performing, and from there I branch off and I work as a movement director in opera, which is a passion of mine, and then the other passion is I teach. So I've taught in most of the drama schools in London. Most recently I run the musical theatre department at Birmingham Ormston Academy for 3 years during the dreaded lockdown period. So it was nice to come back home, and London is my home because I've been there since 1990, so you can work out how old I am from there.
Well, you can take the boy out of Wales, but you can't take the Wales out of the boy.
Absolutely. I remember my brother, it was a tongue-in-cheek moment, phrase from my brothers. They said, "Don't come back speaking like a Cockney." So I've never lost my accent. You know, you can dial it up, dial it down, depending on what roles. But no, I'm so proud to be Welsh, and I'm so proud to be a Carmarthen boy. And coming home is, I'm so excited.
Do you know, I think in many ways you sum up panto in that it brings all areas of the profession together. So you've got an opera background, a dance background, acting background, and that's what panto's all about, isn't it? Bringing all those disciplines and those people who specialise in those disciplines onto one stage.
For me, panto is based on good old school variety performance, music hall. And, you know, as a dame, you're following in the footsteps of great dames, you know, John Inman. I based my dame loosely on an odd combination of the great and late Terry Scott from Terry and June, with a hint of Joan Sims from Carry On. And that's my silhouette and that's my look. And it is, from my makeup to the way I move, it has its roots deeply embedded in good traditional panto. But what's great with panto, it moves with the times. So you can still have a traditional foundation, but within that you have your celebs, you know, who bring in that popularity, but also different disciplines. And then you have musical theatre performers, your triple threats. You know, it's a great, bagatelle of talent.
What about when you were a kid? Do you remember going to see panto?
I went to see panto once in Swansea. For some reason, it never was part of a family tradition, and Carmarthen never had a panto. So no, but I remember being enchanted by it.
I mean, obviously there have been so many greats, and, you know, Swansea Grand has got such a fabulous reputation. So would you say, in terms of the dames, that you could be compared to people like Terry Scott? I mean, obviously the traditions are there to see, from Norman Evans through to Les Dawson, and then John Inman and that sort of type of dame was slightly different, in many ways edging more towards the drag dame. What's your dame like?
My dame is based on, well, I had the privilege to understudy another great Welsh dame, Tudor Davies.
Oh, wow.
Tudor, I owe a lot to Tudor. Tudor gave me my first big UK tour. I was in Scrooge the Musical with Anthony Newley. And from there, he gave me my second West End job, where he was choreographing the original, I was in the original company of The Goodbye Girl. And then he asked me to do Jack and the Beanstalk with Sue Pollard at the Theatre Royal in Plymouth and play Chambers of Chamberlain, but essentially to understudy him. Tudor, for anyone who doesn't know Tudor was a huge musical theatre star.
A fabulous director as well.
Absolutely fabulous director. Again, worked with the greats of Wendy Toy, but Tudor then became Light Entertainment. He was in charge of putting together the Royal Variety Show, I believe, back in the 80s. He wrote panto. He's a master at that craft. So essentially, he dipped his toe in. His makeup was still a man with makeup on.
Yep.
It never veered into drag, so you knew it was always a man playing. But again, he went back, I believe, to traditional old school music hall dame makeup. And for him, his manner was a man in a frock.
Yeah.
But because, Tudor's got a voice, of the angels, when Tudor was performing, he had an incredible tenor voice. He was an incredible dancer. I would say one of the original triple threats, before that name now keeps being bandied about. So that was my privilege to understudy that man. I have so much respect for him.
I think it's really important for me that the dame is warm, larger than life, and absolutely right. My dame was always a man in a frock, and the makeup is a clown makeup, really. You've just got to be brash, large, warm, welcoming, and the centerpiece of any panto, really.
Absolutely. The dame is, as you said, lovable. I like to play with a little bit of minxish energy, so you don't know quite which way the dame goes. I love physical comedy, so I don't mind doing all my stunts myself, and I'm quite physical on that stage. I don't mind throwing myself about. I'll do anything for a laugh. I'm a cheap performer.
Anything for a laugh or money.
Yes, it has been known. A little bit more wouldn't go often.
Well, listen, we're looking forward to seeing you in Carmarthen again this year. I should say Pranandar, really, shouldn't I?
You should, but please don't put me on the spot, because I learnt Welsh as a second language and it's kind of dwindled away. So, os gwelwch yn dda.
Oh, very impressive. Have a great season, Steve. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, Peter Pan is the panto in Halifax this year, and with me now is Nathan Morris and Alan Davies. How are you both?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, can't complain.
Tell us a bit about yourself, first of all, and what you've done before.
So I started off very young, doing bits of comedy and stand-up when I was very young, and then that kind of developed into studying at drama, going to drama school, the usual route. And I've been quite lucky, and I've done, bits on television and theatre, radio. It's been quite varied, so I've been quite lucky.
Quite a few pantos?
I think this is my 6th or 7th. One was one that we did in lockdown, which was an online one, so I'm not sure whether to count that or not. It was great. It was great fun. It was great to be able to carry that on, but it was a different experience.
And have you done this show before?
I have not. No, I'm not familiar. I've never seen a Peter Pan panto, so I'm looking forward to it.
And you're playing?
So I'm playing sort of a right-hand man to Hook, who's just a bumbling Wally, really, a sort of lovable fool. So his name's Starkey. So yeah, that'll be fun. I haven't read any of the script yet, so it's going to be a surprise to me as it is to you.
And Alad, you are Captain Hook.
I am Captain Hook, yes. Yeah.
Have you worked together before, by the way?
No, we met for the first time about 4 hours ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting on like a house on fire.
So far, so good.
It's a good start.
Yes.
It's a good start.
So, tell us about your Captain Hook. Have you played the baddie before?
This is actually my first baddie, which is kind of exciting as much as it is nerve-wracking. But I, for the last 2 years with Imagine, have played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, which, through intent or not, scared a lot of people. So transferring some of that atmosphere to a baddie is sort of a little bit natural, but Hook's got this... He's got this sort of unearned self-confidence. He's got far too much pride in himself for a man who keeps getting beaten by a 10-year-old boy. So there's that sort of swagger that comes with him. It's going to be fun to make people actively dislike me, I think.
So I don't know whether both of you saw panto as kids. Do you remember going to see your very first panto as a child?
No, I didn't actually see panto when I was... Yeah, I feel like I missed out, actually. I really do, sadly. So I didn't really see much theatre until I was an adult, sadly.
Okay. What about you? Did you see panto as a kid?
I saw heaps, lots of pantos. I live in South Wales, or used to live in South Wales, so the new Theatre Cardiff, went there a bunch of times to see different shows there, but the ones that sort of stuck in my head, our school would do a staff pantomime.
Oh yeah.
So every year, all the teachers who didn't have form classes, so your heads of years and everything, would put on a massive pantomime at the beginning of, at the end of the sort of calendar year. and they were always just rubbish, but in such a entertaining way. And like I was relatively well known in my school, so my name got called out a few times in a few of them, and I just thought, you know what, there must be a good version of this out somewhere, and I'd enjoy that. So yeah, that's my like early panto memories is in school, strangely enough. Yeah,
I mean, one of the key ingredients of any panto is that sort of spectacular, whether it's a transformation scene, Cinderella, pumpkin into a coach, that sort of thing, or Aladdin having the flying carpet. I guess one of the big things in Peter Pan is the flying, which is interesting in itself and makes the tech a very interesting experience for everybody as well. Are you looking forward to this show in particular?
Yeah, there's something about Peter Pan as a story that I've always loved it. I think it's one of those old school Disney films that you go back to, and whatever age you are, you're like, oh, that's a nice story, and then it's been done 1,000 different times. But in reference to your sort of mentioning the spectacular moments in it, I think we're both a bit miffed that neither of us get to fly.
Well, you say that, but I'm gunning for it. I'm going to be flying. I'm sure of it. I think I might even be set up. It might be a stitch up. So whether I like it or not, but I'm looking forward to it. It's always the part of the fun of it, isn't it? Trying different things and doing crazy things like flying. Part of panto
the interesting
magic.
thing about pantos as well is the combinations. But for you two, a photo shoot day like that is great because you get to know each other early on, because you're going to be working so closely together. A lot of the comedy routines will be between the two of you.
That's true, yeah, we will.
You're going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting there, buddy.
Oh, we'll have fun. We will have
Absolutely.
fun. I'm sure we'll do fantastically, together.
Well, I hope you have a great run.
Thank you.
Halifax is a marvellous venue as well. You'll have a ball of a time, I'm sure. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you very
Anytime.
much.
Thanks a lot.
And that's it for now. Don't forget to subscribe through your favourite podcast app and join me, Martin Ballard, next time for episode 88, when I'll be chatting to the panto director who's had an extensive career in both theatre and education, David Lloyd-Jones.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of Just Imagine, the podcast series from Imagine Theatre. And you can find out more by going to www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.